My name is Alison Parker. By the age of 27, I was absolutely certain that I had completely separated my life from the man who, when I was 19, handed me a duffel bag and a single sentence before throwing me out of the house. "If you want to live life your way, then don't live it here." After that, no phone calls, no money, no, "Are you okay?" I worked at diners, took night shifts, changed roommates. But one thing was certain, I was never going back to that house. Then, one day, an official envelope arrived. Notice of will. Reading the moment I read the name, my hands started shaking. My grandmother, Margaret Parker. She owned an old lakeside inn out of state, a wooden structure, an aging fireplace, and a kind of silence you can never find in the city. I never imagined it had been valued at $1.1 million. But the real shock came when I walked into the boardroom. He was already sitting there, my father, Richard Parker, dressed in a suit, confident, as if he had never abandoned me. The moment he saw me, he said, "Good timing, Alison. Now we can finally do this the right way. Together." Together. The same man who never paid a single dollar for my college tuition, who didn't call even when I was sleeping on a friend's couch. If I was in that room, there was only one reason: my grandmother. The woman who taught me that cleaning floors wasn't a punishment, it was responsibility. The one who would press cash into my hand and say, "For emergencies," and pie. And who once said, very clearly, "If he ever throws you away, I won't." The lawyer was flipping through the papers. My father was restless. My stepsister Emily was staring at her phone like all of this had already been decided. But inside me, there was a strange sense of calm. Because my grandmother never made decisions lightly. And if she was silent today, then she had definitely written something that would shake everyone in that room. The moment the lawyer opened the page listing the main property, the air in the room changed. And in that instant, I understood. Today, either I would once again become nothing, or for the first time in his life, that man was about to lose right in front of me. But the real words had not been read yet. The boardroom suddenly felt much smaller. The air conditioner was running, but the air itself felt heavy. The lawyer, Mr. Holloway, was seated at the head of the table. In front of him, the files were arranged with such precision that not a single page was out of place. On one side of me sat my father, Richard Parker, upright, calm, like everything was still under his control. Next to him was my stepsister, Emily. Perfect outfit, cold eyes. On the other side, I sat alone. No hand to hold, no support system, just me and my faith in my grandmother. "We are about to read the last will and testament of Margaret Parker," Mr. Holloway said. "This document was signed while she was of sound mind and body." Of sound mind and body. A slight twitch appeared in my father's jaw. He leaned toward Emily and whispered, "We'll challenge that line." I understood immediately. That was their plan. First, sympathy, then doubt, then the claim that my grandmother had been manipulated. Pages kept turning, some donations, a few sentimental items. My father's fingers began tapping against the table. Then the lawyer stopped. "Now," he said, "we come to the primary asset." The room fell completely silent. The Lakeside Inn, currently valued at approximately $1.1 million. Emily straightened in her chair. My father's tapping stopped. Margaret Parker writes, "This place was the piece of my life, and for my granddaughter an apology." My throat tightened. An apology? She had never taken anything from me. "I leave this property to my granddaughter, Alison Parker." My father smiled, the kind of smile that assumes victory before the game is over. "With certain conditions." That smile froze instantly. "The first condition," Mr. Holloway continued, "is that for the next 5 years, this property may not be sold, leased or used as collateral without the written consent of Alison Parker." Emily's eyes widened. "The second condition," the lawyer said without pausing, is that no family member, including Richard Parker and Emily Parker, shall have any authority over the operation, management, or decision-making of this property unless Alison Parker personally permits it. It felt like the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. "This is a joke," my father said. "My mother would never do this." "The third and final condition," the lawyer said, his voice perfectly steady. "If any family member attempts to contest this will or undermine the authority of Alison Parker, the property will be transferred in full to Safe Harbour Youth Trust." A small gasp escaped Emily's mouth. My father was completely frozen. "You're saying," he snapped, "that if we even question this, then you lose everything," the lawyer replied calmly. My father's eyes slowly lifted toward me. For the first time, there was no confidence in them, only fear. "She turned you against us," he said. I answered quietly, "No." She finally taught me to stand on my own side. The judge closed the file. "The will is valid," he said, "and it will take effect immediately." The gavel struck, and with that sound, my father's world began to crack. But I knew. The real battle was only just beginning. The courtroom doors closed, but the war didn't end there. The hallway outside was flooded with white light, strangely cold. Emily stormed ahead, her anger sharp and visible. The sound of her heels hit the floor like a hammer. My mother, silent the entire time, stood with her eyes lowered. She clutched her purse as if she could disappear inside it. And then, my father stopped right in front of me, blocking my path, the same way he had stood in the doorway 10 years ago, keeping me from leaving. "We need to talk," he said quietly, but there was no softness in that quiet voice. I folded my arms. "The will has been read. What is there left to talk about?" A practiced smile spread across his face. "Reality," he said. "You really think you can run $1 million property on your own?" I didn't answer. "Staff, maintenance, marketing," he continued. "One mistake, and everything falls apart." I met his eyes. "You left me alone once. I didn't fall apart then." His expression hardened. "Don't dramatize it," he said. "You were stubborn. You chose to leave." The old fire rose in my chest. "You said either obey you or get out," I replied. "So yes, I chose. I chose to survive." He stepped closer, so close I could hear his breathing. "If you act smart," he whispered, "this can still work. You stay the owner on paper. We make the decisions. Everyone wins." I smiled slightly. "Everyone?" I asked. "Or just you?" Behind us, Emily spun around and snapped, "You're being emotional. This is business, not memories." I turned to her. "This place is a home to me. To you, it's just numbers." My father's voice lost all pretense of calm. "If you do this alone," he said, "you'll fail, and when you fall, there will be no way back." For a moment, the old fear tried to return. Empty rooms, unfamiliar cities, a life without support. But then I heard my grandmother's voice. "Anyone who can throw you away does not get to decide your worth." I said clearly, "You lost me 10 years ago. Today it just became official on paper." There was no control left in his eyes, only anger. "This is war, Alison," he said, "and I don't lose." I answered calmly, "And I don't live in fear anymore." He turned away. Emily followed. My mother paused for a moment. She looked at me, wanted to say something, but then she lowered her eyes and walked away. I stood there, alone, but for the first time, not weak. That evening, I drove toward the lakeside inn. The sun was setting. Golden light shimmered across the water. I took out the key, opened the door. The same old scent of wood, coffee and pine. There was no fear, only one question. What will I build now? And will I ever let anyone break me again? My grandmother's house was mine now, and this was my first victory. But not the end, because people who are addicted to control never stay quiet. The lakeside inn looked different in the evening light, as if it was waiting to see who would take care of it now. I opened the door. The sound of the key no longer felt like fear. It felt like responsibility. On the first day, I didn't make any big decisions. No investors, no board meetings. Instead, I put up a cork board. Old photographs, laughing families, elderly couples sitting by the lake, children running across the wooden steps. And in the center, I pinned a piece of paper. People don't come here for luxury. They come to feel safe. My grandmother's words. I made a list. What's broken? What can be saved? What should never be changed? I called local people, no big corporations, the same craftsmen who knew my grandmother by name. Don't change this place, I told them. Fix it. Don't erase it. Within days, the bookings started coming in, slow at first, then steadily. I met the guests myself, served coffee, listened to their stories, and every time I felt I was doing the right thing. But peace never lasts long. Rumors began spreading around town. The new girl is inexperienced. The inn is falling apart. The real owner was pushed out unfairly. The first time I heard it, something cracked inside my chest. At the grocery store, a voice whispered behind me. Richard is just trying to protect his family. That girl is too emotional. I said nothing, but that night, sitting by the lake, I asked myself, if I fail, will they be proven right? My friend Jake sat beside me that night. They're not trying to break you because you're wrong, he said. They're scared because you're succeeding. The following week, a review appeared online. 1-star, unsafe place, poor management, would not recommend. I understood immediately. This wasn't a mistake, it was an attack. Then the phone call came. Miss Parker, the voice was cold. I represent Richard and Emily Parker. My hands shook, but my voice didn't. They believe the will was executed under undue influence. We are filing to contest it. The war had officially begun. I ended the call and immediately phoned my lawyer. They did exactly what my grandmother warned about, I said. The lawyer replied calmly, Good, that means the clause is working. That night, I left fear outside the door. I looked at the board again, the photos, the plans, and my grandmother's sentence. Success is the loudest revenge, and I made a decision. If they try to destroy my image, I will make this place unbreakable, because the people who think you're weak are the ones most terrified when you don't break. The notice arrived in a plain yellow envelope. No drama, no warning, just a few lines. Petition to contest the will. I stared at the paper for a long time. It felt like fear had learned how to speak in legal language. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. This was the moment my grandmother had prepared for in advance. I went straight to my lawyer, Mr. Holloway's office. He opened the file and said without looking up, Don't panic, your grandmother anticipated this. He placed a USB drive on the table. This, he said, is what your father didn't know about. We turned on the screen. The video began. My grandmother appeared. She looked fragile, but the familiar spark was still in her eyes. If this video is playing, she said, then it means my son is doing exactly what I knew he would do. My throat tightened. No sound came out. I am of sound mind, my grandmother continued, and this is my decision. No one forced me. She smiled. Richard, if you're watching this, listen carefully. Her voice was calm but unwavering. You didn't throw Alison out because she was wrong. You did it because she was no longer under your control. I broke down crying. And now, my grandmother said, you're repeating the same mistake. She leaned closer to the camera. If you challenge this will, this place will never be yours. Not ever. The video ended. The room fell completely silent. The lawyer spoke. This will go to court, and that video is your shield. The court date arrived. My father walked in full of confidence. The suit, the team of lawyers, the old arrogance. The judge allowed the video to be played. As my grandmother's voice filled the courtroom, my father's face finally broke. For the first time, his lawyers had nothing to say. The judge closed the file. "The will stands," he said. "No further challenges will be entertained." The gavel fell, and in that moment, he lost. Outside the courtroom, my father looked at me. He tried to speak, but there were no words. I didn't speak either. There was nothing left to say. That night, I returned to the lakeside inn. The lake was calm. The air was light. I rested my hand on the wooden railing and for the first time felt it fully. I am safe. My grandmother didn't just leave me a place. She left me trust in myself. And now this story wasn't over, because the real question was, when you finally win, what do you choose to build next? After the court case, the Lakeside Inn felt truly peaceful for the first time. No fear, no phone calls, no rumours. Just morning sunlight and a thin mist floating over the lake. I held a mug of coffee and sat on the porch, the same spot where my grandmother used to sit in the evenings, talking to guests. Victory didn't feel the way movies show it. No applause, no celebration. Just a deep breath that had been trapped inside me for years. And finally came all the way out. I didn't run the inn like a business. I ran it like a responsibility. The staff stayed the same, the ones who had worked with my grandmother. I learned their children's names. I listened to their stories. I made one simple rule. No one here is just a customer. Everyone is a guest. During the off-season, we started weekend camps for local school kids. One room became my grandmother's library, old books, handwritten notes, and on the wall, one line of hers. "Don't defeat the one who tries to break you. Become better than them." Within a few months, the inn was fully booked. People wrote in their reviews, "This place doesn't feel like a hotel. It feels like home." Every review like that meant more to me than applause ever could. One day, I received an email from my mother. Just 3 lines. "I'm sorry, I wasn't brave. You were." I didn't reply. Some doors are better left closed. A few weeks later, I had a small sign installed near the reception desk. Margaret Parker Lodge, founded with love, run with courage. That evening, I tossed a small piece of my grandmother's favourite cookie into the lake, and I whispered, "I'm okay. I'm becoming exactly who you believed I could be." The wind moved. The leaves rustled, almost like an answer. Now, if someone asks me, "Did you get revenge on your father?" I smile and say, "No, I saved myself, and that's the greatest victory of all." Because the girl who was once thrown out of her home is now the one who decides who gets to come in. And this is my story, not unfinished, but complete. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more motivational stories like this. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching this video from?